While I was at the hospital sitting with my dying grandfather, my father took out a mortgage on my house for my sister. When I returned, he told me she needed it more than you. I grabbed my jacket and said, then don't complain about what comes next. My name is Daniel. I'm 33, the oldest, the spreadsheet kid who grew into the spreadsheet adult in our family. I'm the calm one, the person with jumper cables, the one who knows exactly which cabinet holds the light bulbs. My sister, Leia, she's the bright one, the star. I'm more like the sound check. That was fine for a long time. I never craved the spotlight. I just like things working. I own a modest 2-bedroom on the edge of town. I fix my own leaky faucets, label my breaker box, and keep extra batteries in a clear bin because chaos always begins with dead remotes. I teach at a community college. It's not glamorous, but I like it. Students call me sir, and I act like I'm not surprised. The day everything started, it was a Tuesday, and I was in my grandfather's hospital room. Machines breathed for him in slow, steady whooshes. The clock on the wall ticked like it had somewhere else to be. I'd slept on the vinyl chair for 2 nights, arms crossed over a jean jacket that still smelled faintly of laundry soap. I held his hand and talked about the Cardinals game from the night before because routine sounded merciful. My phone lay face down on the rolling tray beside the warm ginger ale and plastic cups. Unknown numbers kept buzzing. I silenced it. I poured water for my grandmother, walked her to the window and back, and spoke about nothing on purpose. When she fell asleep, I checked my phone and saw 3 voicemails from a number labeled County Title Services. No one ever calls from a title office with good news. I set the phone down without listening. My brain only had room for one crisis. Around noon, my father walked in with 2 coffees and that tall, familiar energy I remembered from forced Little League enthusiasm. He kissed Grandma's forehead, squeezed my shoulder, and pulled me into the hallway by the vending machines. You look tired, he said. I am. I glanced at my phone. Put that away. Today's not a paperwork day. I didn't say anything about paperwork, I replied. Good, he said. Because your sister has a lot on her plate. Then he corrected himself. We all have a lot on our plates. A nurse rattled by with a cart. Dad lowered his voice. After this, he said, meaning the hospital, meaning my grandfather dying surrounded by plastic plants, let's talk. Nothing dramatic. Just family logistics. I asked because he had that look, the one where he drops a topic in your lap and calls you defensive if you push back. Not now, he said. Later. Don't start. Be generous. Be generous. The way some people say be quiet. Back in the room, my aunt whispered a prayer over the bed. Dad handed me one of the coffees. Sweet, the way Mom drinks it, not how I take mine. He looked at the monitors. We're lucky to have each other, he said, eyes fixed on the machines, not me. Your sister needs us. Don't make everything a debate. I said nothing. The first trigger wasn't an argument. It was that sentence sliding across the room like a folded note. Be generous. Don't make it a debate. I set the coffee down, held my grandfather's hand, and watched the clock continue its relentless ticking. I didn't wake up one day to a mess. It was a slow drip. Leia was golden from birth. Yearbooks, pep rallies, people who remembered her birthday without Facebook. My job at home was to carry the cooler and somehow remain invisible while doing it. At 19, she blew a tire leaving a party with nails in the road. I Venmo'd the tow guy because he only accepted one card. At 21, she lost her wallet at a music festival and called crying in the rain. I drove an hour, paid the motel because she had no ID and they were being difficult. At 25, she tried opening a candle shop on Etsy. I made her a budget and a simple logo in an afternoon. She sent me a scented sample and left the spreadsheet unopened. When I asked how she'd cover inventory, she said, "You always figure it out." Our parents helped in their own ways. Dad runs a small contracting crew. He knows every tool brand by sound. Mom gardens like she's auditioning for a magazine that will never call. They love us. They love Leia out loud. They love me quietly and always ask me to be understanding when quiet felt like a bruise. At 25, I bought my house with Dad's help. He insisted on being on the title for a better rate and for a future family trust. I trusted him. We never made the trust work, holidays, Leia's emergencies. The line on the deed remained. Small humiliations piled up. Mom handing me a bill, Dad asking me to float payroll, Leia using my Amazon account and sending me pictures with captions for brands. Hesitate, and I was rigid. Follow up, and I was too calculating. We're family, not a bank, they said. 3 months ago, Leia decided to open a wellness studio. Not a gym, not a spa, something in between, filled with plants and neon. Lease signed, Pinterest board ready. Landlord expecting a confident yes. She needed a deposit, build out equipment, numbers that were daunting. I can't, I said. Sometimes you can't. My mortgage, my roof, a water heater that occasionally needed attention. I offered to look at cash flow, equipment lease options, and used machines. She rolled her eyes. God, you're so administrative. Dad said, we'll figure it out. Weeks later, figure it out became little pings, a bank email, a text from Dad requesting my insurance binder, a group chat from Mom praising us for coming together. When I asked, Dad said it was housekeeping, nothing heavy. And, as always, don't be dramatic. So, when the voicemails from County Title Services came in at the hospital, I ignored them. Grandpa mattered more than my inbox. But Dad's words, be generous, looped in my head as the machines breathed like tired animals. Grandpa died Wednesday morning, quietly as he wanted. We did the paperwork, hugged awkwardly, and drove home in stunned silence, every traffic light too bright. I walked into my house after 3 days of hospital air and found 2 envelopes on the mat. One from a bank I'd used, one from one I hadn't. I hung my jacket, fed the cat, took an overly hot shower, then sat at the table with a towel on my head, opening the envelopes like birthday cards. Welcome to your new home equity line of credit. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories like this. Credit limit, variable APR, and an initial advance of $68,000 sent to a third-party escrow. The second envelope was thinner. County recorder confirmation, a deed of trust listed against my address. I stared at my name, then at the number. My hands turned icy, like my bones remembered every winter I'd ever felt. I called Dad. He picked up on the second ring, as if he'd been waiting with the line half dialed. Breathe, he said first, like I'd started yelling. I hadn't even spoken yet. We handled it. What is it? I asked. The house, the equity, he replied, cheerful in a way that made my shoulders tense. We used a line. Smart money. Interest is low. Leia needed it to close the lease. You mortgaged my house? I said, the words sounding unreal even as they left my mouth in the hospital hallway. Come on, our house, he corrected quickly. Right, I was on the title too. Time for that property to do something for the family. Your sister needed a boost. This is an investment, Daniel. You didn't ask me, I said. He sighed into the phone like I was late to a meeting we'd already agreed on. If you'd asked, you'd have made it a big deal. That's why I waited until it was done. She needed it more than you. There it was. That sentence landed flat, and I almost laughed. I looked around my kitchen, cheap clock, scuffed chair, all the little yes I'd handed over my life, and felt the word more slide like a stuck drawer finally giving way. How much? I asked. 68 to start, he said, then explained a draw schedule as she hit milestones. We'll cover the interest from the business until it stands on its own. It's a family project. No, I said calmly, like when I tell students to push power and hold for 10 seconds. It's my house, Daniel. Gentle now, he said, that familiar voice that once made me feel like a good son. Don't make me the villain for doing what's best for your sister. She's got timing. You have stability. We're balancing. I looked at the cat. He blinked. My towel dripped on my shoulder. My jacket hung heavy. When did you sign? I asked. Yesterday. Don't spiral. Get some sleep. We'll stop by after dinner. Your mother already made a casserole. He hung up. Just like that, as if everything was settled. I laid my head on the table, listening to the house. The fridge hummed. The faucet dripped, paused, then dripped again. The cat scratched the mat as if rehearsing leaving. I checked the bank mailer again. On page 2, a sentence about the right to cancel within 3 business days. I read it twice, hearing Dad's layered voice. Be generous. Don't make it a debate. Hila texted, a sparkling photo of an empty storefront with key day and a row of hearts. I flipped my phone face down, went to the bedroom, and retrieved the shoebox with my deep copies, the ones the closing paralegal had handed me years ago, smiling. You did a grown-up thing today. I sat on the floor and noticed an extra sheet tucked behind the manila tabs. My father's neat handwriting, line info underlined twice. My grandfather had died 7 hours earlier. My father had mortgaged my house for the family, called it balancing, called me generous before I'd said a word. He assumed I'd stay quiet. Almost right. I called a meeting. Calendar first, chaos later. Group text, 5:02 p.m., my place. 7:30, non-negotiable. Mom sent a heart. Dad wrote, we're not fighting about this. Hila, I have a walkthrough at 7 o'clock. I replied, then come at 8. Before they arrived, I made a list. I work better with lists. Printed welcome letter, deed copy, mortgage statement, the line brochure noting the right to cancel before midnight on the 3rd business day. Called the bank, asked practical questions in a voice I used to reset routers. The woman on the line was kind, like a step stool in a high cupboard. When my family arrived, they brought 2 kinds of air, perfume and sawdust, plus the weight of what we were about to do to each other. Mom placed foil pans on the counter like shields. We brought dinner, she said cheerfully. Sit, I said. My voice surprised me, steady enough to carry a box. Dad looked around, assessing as usual. Leia adjusted her hair in the mirror. I placed the papers on the table, pointing to the rescission sentence. I'm canceling the line, I said. Silence added up like math. Dad broke first. Don't. You'll embarrass me. The broker is a friend. I'm not interested in your friend's feelings, I said. Or your timeline. Or being the quiet hero while you announce business plans on Facebook. Hila laughed helplessly. You're dramatic. It's leverage. We had to move fast. You took my roof and called it leverage, I said. Our roof, Dad insisted stubbornly. I'm on the paper. Don't act like you built this alone. I didn't, he said. I also didn't agree to it for a neon sign. Mom touched my arm. Honey, your sister is finally doing something. Don't kick her knees. I'm not. I'm taking my house back. Dad's jaw moved. You've always been small about money. I'm precise, I said. There's a difference. Hila crossed her arms. You love rules. Here's one, families help. You have stability. I have ambition. Dad made a call. Dad made a theft, I said. Now I'm setting a boundary. Phone in hand, I had already called, documented, noted the case number on a sticky like I mark extension cords. The bank confirmed, I have until midnight tomorrow to cancel. I'm doing it. Any draws after will be fraudulent. Try them, and we'll have a different conversation, not at this table. Dad stood. You would do that to your own sister. You already did it to your own son. I pointed at him the way he did when I was 10, leaving the rake outside. You think this is revenge? You want to hurt us, because we never told you. I shook my head. This isn't about revenge. It's about closure. They all blinked, like the light had just changed. Closure, Mom repeated, confused, as if I'd spoken some foreign word. Closing the hole where my life seeps away, I said. Closing the account where my home pays for someone else's rent. Closing the story where I give endlessly just to be allowed to stay. I slid a second sheet of paper across the table. A simple agreement. I'd written it plainly. No more share cards. No more automatic assumptions. If Dad wanted to stay on the title, we'd create a proper trust with clear rules. If not, he'd sign a quick claim. I'd refinance in 6 months with a different lender. Leia would never use my address, my account, or my signature for anything, ever. Choose, I said. Title with rules, or no title at all. Either way, that line is gone. Hila's mouth moved, like she had a dozen words ready and none of them fit. I'll miss the lease window. I met her gaze. I believe you. I'm not the window. Dad grabbed the papers without really looking at them. He looked at me instead, and his face carried that old mix, pride and irritation, braided together like a rope we were both tired of holding. You'll regret this, he said. Not a threat. A prophecy. Maybe, I said. But at least it'll be mine. I walked to the sink, ran the water. It hissed softly, I still held my phone. No need to press anything. What needed sending was already gone. We stayed in the same room, related yet suddenly distant. And for the first time in years, I felt taller in my own home. The room was loud, then quiet in its own way. An hour after they left, missed calls piled up. Dad, then Leah, then Mom, then private. Texts came like weather rolling in. Don't do this. Too late to cancel. You owe us a conversation. You owe your sister a chance. You owe. I made rice. Ate at the counter straight from the pot with a spoon, like a teenager. Ignored everything for 2 hours. At 10:31 p.m., I called the bank again. Repeated the case number. Confirmed the rescission letter had uploaded. The rep said, "You're within your rights." Not triumphant, just matter of fact. I thanked them too many times anyway. By morning, 29 missed calls. By lunch, 57. By dinner, 83. Leah sent a long text, broken into dramatic lines. You don't understand timing. The build-out crew is ready. I told everyone we're funded. You're humiliating me. Do you want me to fail? I stared at my phone until the bubble faded. Then I typed, I want you to separate me from your plans, and put the phone face down like a lid. Dad left a voicemail in that scolding, sad tone he wears like a sweater. You went nuclear. This could have been quiet. That line was a bridge. You burned it. You think houses and papers matter more than your sister's life. I played it twice. He made it sound like I'd changed something essential. Maybe I had. Mom called next. Her message was different. Honey, your father is beside himself. Hila hasn't stopped crying. You did this wrong. You're so good with systems. Why didn't you make the bank thing work and make everyone happy? I thought about her words. Make the bank thing work and make everyone happy. I set the phone by the sink and scrubbed a pan like it had personally offended me. Around 5, Leah arrived. She knocks like the building owes her a favor. I cracked the door enough to be polite. Let me in, she said. We can talk here, I replied. Her eyes were red, mascara smudged into a smoky glare. You're cruel. I'm consistent, I said. You don't get it, she said. This was my shot. Dad finally believed in me. He always. I believed in you, I said, just not using your own collateral. She flinched, then squared her shoulders. Fine, you win. We'll get the money from somewhere else. You don't need to explain how, I said, and I meant it as a favor, not a dig. She stepped back 2 paces and did that thing she used to do as a kid, tracing a wide circle in the air as if drawing a line around herself. And I wasn't allowed inside it. You'll regret this, she said, testing Dad's old prophecy like it was a coat that didn't fit. Maybe, I said, but I'll regret it in my own house. She left. My hands shook, but I was still sure both things at the same time. That night, I pulled out my file box. I made copies, labeled them mortgage, insurance, HOA. I put the originals in a fireproof envelope, then the envelope into a backpack and the backpack in my car. I changed my online banking password and disabled paperless statements. I made a folder called Legal and added what I had. I Googled a real estate attorney, read reviews like I was picking a toaster, and sent an email with clear bullet points. At the bottom, I added one line. I want to set a boundary without burning the house down. It made me smile, even though nothing about this was funny. Grandpa's funeral was Saturday. Black suits, tissue boxes. Leah avoided me like I was a camera on a bad day. Dad's eulogy included the line I knew he would say. Family is everything. People nodded. He looked at me when he said it. I stared at the flowers, thinking about how much of my life had been paid in that currency. After the service, he cornered me near the coat rack. You called, he said. Not a question. I did. They'll release the lien this week. That's what they said. He exhaled through his nose, then spoke quietly. You made it hard. You made it illegal, I said. Let's not get stuck on the adjectives, he muttered, staring at his shoes. I shouldn't have done it that way, he said. Not exactly an apology, but a creak in the right direction. I let it stand on its shaky legs. That night at home, I slept. Not perfectly, but better. I dreamed of a door I could lock without anyone else holding the key. On Monday, the attorney called. We spoke for 20 minutes in plain sentences. No fancy words. You're okay, he said. And yes, I had standing to open it, but not to draw without consent. I did the right thing, fast. He explained how to document everything, how to send a letter that sounded like me, but counted in a file, and how to remove Dad from the title without starting a public war. He used the word boundaries like it belonged to a deed, not a relationship. It felt right. I wrote Dad an email, no texts. Emails were ties. I laid out what happened, what I did, what I needed. 2 options, trust with rules or quitclaim and refinance. Soft timelines. My attorney's name. You're welcome to have counsel, I added. In bold, 1 line in the middle. You will not use my home as collateral again. 2 days passed. Silence stretched. On the 3rd day, he wrote back. We'll do it right. I'll sign off the title. I shouldn't be in charge of your roof. It was the nicest sentence he had ever sent me. It still stung. Both truths can exist. Leia sent a different kind of message. A photo of a small storefront in a strip mall with a vacancy sign. Plan B, she wrote. Then, after a minute, this one's ugly. Then, I can afford the deposit. And finally, can you help me read the lease? Not money, just eyes. I said yes. Boundaries are exiles sometimes. We spent an hour on FaceTime, clause by clause. When she said, I'll just skim the middle, I said, that's where the traps are, and made her read it anyway. She sent a thumbs up. She didn't ask for my card. Mom took longer. She texted pictures of casseroles she hadn't brought over. A week later, she called, her voice echoing like she was down a long hallway. I don't know how to do this with you. Do what? Not ask me. You can ask me, I said. You just can't assume. She exhaled, a sound older than both of us. You sound like a man I didn't raise. I sound like a man who finally heard what you meant, I said, and she didn't hang up. The lien release arrived in the mail, crisp, boring, perfect. I filed it. Replaced the smoke detector batteries because rituals matter. Made spaghetti and ate it on the couch with a towel tucked in my collar like a child. Quiet in the house. Not empty, just quiet. The calls slowed. Texts stopped sounding like sirens. I kept waking up early, like the air in a finally opened room was new enough to keep me from oversleeping. Friday, I watered my 1 stubborn tomato plant in the tiny backyard. I wanted it to fruit once. The cat judged me from the window. Dad called. I let it ring 3 times, then answered. We signed the paperwork. Your lawyer will get a copy, he said. Thank you, I said. He cleared his throat. I hate that we did this to you. I didn't correct him. I said, I'm glad we're not doing it anymore. He made a noise that could have been a laugh if it had more vitamins. Your sister says you helped with the lease, he added. I read words. She read them too. You always were good at reading small print, he said. I'm learning to write it, I said. We hung up. I watered the tomato again, even though it didn't need it. Sometimes you repeat the motion until your body believes it. I'm not telling this like a court case. I didn't need a verdict. I needed a door that locks from the inside. I have one now. I changed small things. Labeled 2 calendar blocks a week no, kept them sacred. Moved my emergency fund to a bank no family knows. Took Dad off the spare key ring. Gave it to my neighbor who feeds my cat. Told Leia I'll read contracts, not sign them. Told Mom I'll eat lasagna, not her guilt. Leia found a cheaper space. Fluorescent lights, ugly tile. She posted a photo, we start small. I tapped the heart, didn't add $1. Dad stopped calling me from rooms where decisions were already made. He started calling earlier when things were still drafts. Sometimes I say yes. Sometimes I say no. Both answers get to be love. Grandpa's hat hangs by my door. Reminds me men in my family carry things with hands and mouths, and I can put some down. He worked until he couldn't. Told me once at 8, handing me a wrench. If you break something fixing it, you were the only one trying. I think of that when I'm tempted to make boundaries perfect before making them real. Here's the moral, simple enough for a sticky note above the sink. I won't let anyone mortgage my house, my time, or my attention without asking again. If I'm not in the room when the pen hits the paper, my name won't be on it. If I'm not invited to decide, I'm not responsible to pay. This isn't cruelty. It's clarity, not revenge. Closure. I'm building a life where the lights come on because I flipped the switch, not because I said yes until the wire burned. My name is Daniel. I still label the bins. I still fix what I can reach. But I no longer pretend I'm a utility the family can tap, like a wall outlet. I'm a person. I own 4 walls, a roof, and a door that closes. And when someone I love stands outside asking for all of it, I can open the door just a little, speak through the crack, and say in a steady voice,